is the beginning of a brand new month, so that can mean only one thing, and that is my July wrap-up and August TBR. Hi everyone, it is Samantha, and as I said in the intro, I'm here today to do that booktube standard monthly video, and that is the wrap-up for the month. So I'm here today to tell you guys the books that I read in July and the books I'm hoping to read in August, so let us get started. So I had a pretty good reading month in July. I ended up reading 5 books. This couple of them are very, very big, and I love them to death, and I'm sure you can already guess what those are. If not, you will soon find out. So as usual, I like to start out my monthly wrap-ups with some statistics for the month, so I will get started on those right now. So as I said, I read a total of 5 books in July for a total of 2,180 pages. That averages to about 73 pages a day. Of the books that I read, the vast majority, at 40%, was fantasy, 20% was science fiction, 20% was YA fantasy, and 20% was fiction. In terms of the type of books that I read, the format that the book was in, 60% were trade paperbacks, 20% was hardcovers, and 20% was an ebook. In terms of the years published, all of the books that I read were published between the years 2000 and 2015. And in terms of page length, I read 2 books that were between 300 and 399 pages, 1 between 400 and 499 pages, 1 between 500 and 599 pages, and 1 that was over 900 pages. And of the books that I read, 3 of them were 4 stars, 1 was 1.5 stars, and 1 was 5 stars. So those were my general statistics for my reading month for the month of July, and now I'll get into the books that I read themselves and what I thought of them. So the first book that I read in the month of July was Blue Lily, Lily Blue by Maggie Stiefvater. This is the 3rd book in the Raven cycle. I don't want to give too much away because it is the 3rd book in the series, but suffice it to say, I really enjoyed it, but I would have to say it's probably my least favorite of the 3 that I have read so far. I felt like a lot more could have happened in the book than it did. I feel like she's dragging some aspects of the book series out more than she needs to, but needless to say, I still enjoyed it, and I cannot wait to get the 4th book, which comes out next March. So I have a few months to wait, but that's okay. I can do it. I'm used to waiting. If you're a book lover, you're used to waiting after a while. I ended up rating this book 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read in July is a recent release, and that is A Singular and Extraordinary Tale of Mir and Goliath. I happened to run across this one while I was at Barnes & Noble. I picked it up because the cover looked intriguing and the plot looked intriguing, so I just picked it up and I pretty much started reading it that same day. This is an adult historical, I guess fantasy, you could say, because it takes place in our world during the Victorian era, but it adds supernatural paranormal elements to it. I guess fantastical elements, you could say. It follows this young girl, Mir, who was trapped in a grandfather clock by her grandfather, but she wasn't alone in that clock, and when she was released by this police officer, Goliath, she's not exactly the same girl that she once was, and Goliath ends up becoming her protector, and together they set out trying to figure out what happened to her and how to go about fixing it. It is a very interesting book, very interestingly told, I would say. The storytelling was very unique, and I still really enjoyed it. It was very dark. It wasn't necessarily a horror filled, like it wasn't a lot of slashing going on, but it was definitely has some very dark moments and elements to it, but I still found it really intriguing, and the way that the story unfolds was very, very interesting, and I look forward to reading the sequel to this book because this is the 1st book and I believe what is to become a trilogy. So I ended up rating this one 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read in the month of July was The Ship of Destiny by Robin Hobb, 3rd and final book in the Live Ship Traders trilogy. Again, since this is the last book in the series, I don't want to give too much away about it, but suffice it to say, this was a 5-star book. I absolutely loved it. And I don't think I've ever had a book series where I have rated every single book a 5 out of 5 stars. But that's exactly what happened with this Live Ship Traders trilogy. It was phenomenal. Robin Hobb's character growth, her world building, just everything about it was phenomenal. It was so well done. It was beautifully told. I was hooked from beginning to end, from the 1st book to the 3rd. I could not wait to see what was going to happen. It was just fantastic, and just kudos to Robin Hobb for creating such a great series with dynamic and interesting characters and events. It was just so well done, and I highly recommend it. If you've read the Farseer books and you weren't quite sold on Robin Hobb because some people find them to be a little bit tedious, rest assured you guys need to continue on with the Live Ship books. They get so much better than the Farseer books. I enjoyed the Farseer books, but a lot of people find them to be a little bit wearisome, like I've said before. So again, just please, if you are not sure, just please continue on because I assure you it gets better. I've had a lot of people ask what order to read her books in. It is best to start with the Farseer books because all of her characters build off of one another. Events from the 1st trilogy are referenced in this one. There are certain characters that show up in every single book, and almost all of her books feature Fitz and the Fool, which are introduced in the Farseer books. So it is best to start with the Farseer books and Assassin's Apprentice, because even if you do start with Live Ship Traders trilogy, you will have to go back and read the Farseer books if you want to continue on with the rest of her books. So probably best to start with the 1st one. But as I said, I really enjoyed this one. It was excellent, so well done. Robin Hobb, I love you. She has definitely become one of my favorite authors and definitely one of my favorite fantasy authors. Fantastic. And again, I rated this one 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I picked up in July was another Robin Hobb book, and that was Fool's Errand. This is the first book in the Tawny Man trilogy. So this takes place after the Life Ship books. So good, so good. It's great to be back with Fitz and the Fool, and oh, it's just so good. A lot of time has passed, so since the ending of the first trilogy with Fitz and the Fool, the Farster books, there's been about 15 years that have passed. The Fool remains one of my favorite literary characters. He is a very interesting, mysterious, dynamic, compassionate, wonderful, beautiful character. I'm not exaggerating. He is fantastic. And I love Fitz, and I love how he's matured. He's definitely become a more mature character, and just the dynamic between these two, their friendship is just so beautiful, and I absolutely loved it. I think of all the Fitz and the Fool books I have read with these two characters, I think this is one of my favorites. It was just so well done. Even though this is the first book in a trilogy, I still can't give away too much of the plot because it will spoil you for the other books. But suffice it to say, the way she is weaving the various storylines together is being done so well. And though I still really enjoyed it, it was not quite as good as the Life Ship books, but it was still very well done. And it was definitely a setup book. A lot is being set up for the other two books in the trilogy, which I cannot wait to read. So ultimately, I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. And the final book that I read in the month of July was Armada by Ernest Cline. This was his new release this month, and it follows a young 18-year-old boy who lives in Beaverton, Oregon, and there is a game that him and everybody else in this world plays, and that is Armada. It is this alien fighting game, and everybody's obsessed with this game. And one day, while sitting in class, he sees a spaceship out of his window that matches exactly one of the spaceships from his game. And from this point on, things take off, just events unfold. You find out that the game isn't necessarily just a game, and he gets kind of twisted into all of these events. Overall, I did not like this book at all. It was like 350 pages, but I had the hardest time getting through this book. Like, it took me like 10 days to read when this really should have taken me 2 days. I mean, it was just, I had the hardest time with this book. I felt like he took Red Dawn, E.T., Close Encounters, and his own twists, and then twisted it together into a new book and then called it new. And I just did not like it at all. I felt like I really liked Ready Player One. I felt like the pop culture references were right on par for the book. But it's like he thought, oh, everybody likes pop culture references, I'm going to shove them all into this book with no context. Like, just in the terms of the story and the characters, I felt like it was out of place. Like, characters, because this takes place slightly in our future, I believe 2018. But suddenly, all of these characters, no matter their age, get every single obscure 80s and 90s reference, which I find to be a little bit unbelievable. It made sense in Ready Player One because his character was obsessed with the 80s, and it makes sense for the main character because he was obsessed with his father who has passed, and who was obsessed with the 80s because he kind of grew up in the 80s and early 90s, but all of his friends to get all the references and stuff, I don't know. It just pulled me out of the story. I did not enjoy it. I felt like a lot of it was unbelievable. It didn't feel connected to the characters. I felt like all the characters fell flat. Did not care about what happened to any of them, and just overall I was not that impressed, and I gave it 1.5 out of 5 stars. I know. If you like the book, I'm glad that you guys really enjoyed the book. Just me personally, I did not much care for it. I do intend to have a review of this up soon to give you guys a more in-depth view of why I did not much care for it. So I did actually read 2 other books in the month of July, but I did not finish them. If you guys remember my July TBR, then you will know that I was going to be starting Jonathan Strange and Mr Norrell by Susanna Clarke. I did not actually end up finishing it. I got about 250 pages in. I am really enjoying it, but I have a lot of other books I wanted to get to for now. So I actually DNF'd it until the fall-winter months because I feel like it'll be a good fall-winter read. Again, I was really enjoying it. It's very beautifully written, and I was engrossed in the story, but I have a lot of other books I want to get to, and I'm just not feeling it right now. So I do anticipate getting back to it in the fall and winter months. And the other book I was reading was The Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas. Again, I've been trying to finish this one for months, but a lot of buddy reads and things have been taking my time. But I got back into this one at the end of the month, and again, I'm really enjoying it. I'm about a third of the way through, and I really am going to try and finish it this August. I want to really set aside and devote some time to it because I've really been enjoying this story. Alright guys, that was it for what I read in July. And I'll tell you guys some of the books I'm hoping to read in August. So first off, this is, of course, the first day of the Booktubeathon, the day this video is going up. So I do have a Booktubeathon TBR. I will leave that video down below so you guys can see what books I picked for that and why I picked them, but I will kind of just go through those books quickly. So the books that I chose for my Booktubeathon TBR include House of Hades by Rick Riordan, Seraphina by Rachel Hartman, Emily Climbs by Ellen Montgomery, The Broken Blade by Kelly McCullough, whose name I still know I am pronouncing incorrectly, The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past graphic novel by Shotaro Ishinomori, and Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. So I don't know if I'm going to get through all those books in the Booktubeathon. I'm certainly going to try. I anticipate getting through at least 3 of them. If I don't finish them, I might not end up reading them the rest of the month, so I'm just going to throw that out there. I do for sure want to read House of Hades this month, and I do for sure want to read Serafina this month, but if I don't get to any of the others, I might not end up getting to them for the rest of the month either, because I do have other books that I want to read. So, going into the other books I want to read this month after the Booktubeathon. First one's going to be The Golden Fool by Robin Hobb. This is the second book in the Tawny Man series trilogy. Can't wait to get back into it with Fitz and the Fool and see what's going to happen. Again, we're also going to be reading Fool's Fate by Robin Hobb this month, I believe. I still need to order it. Haven't gotten it yet, but I need to order it soon because Book Depository is very slow with their shipping to the US. So I need to get on the ball with ordering that one. But again, I cannot wait to finish the series because Robin Hobb. The next book that I'm going to be reading this month is going to be Buddy Read with Vanessa Patina, who I'll link down below because she's a lovely human and you guys should check her out. And that is Malice by John Gwynne. This is a chunky fantasy book. I don't know too much about it. I kind of want to go into it blind, but I've heard great things about this series. I hear it's like a very good, like, solid fantasy story, so I cannot wait to see what it's about for myself. And the last thing I'm going to be reading this August is Impetus Soul by Gail Robinson. I was actually sent this by the author in exchange for a honest review. It is the first book in a series, and it has has both fantasy and sci-fi elements, and as she describes it, medieval and colonial type of a setting. I've already started it. It seems really, really interesting, so I cannot wait to finish it, and I will be having a review of this one up as well, so be sure to look out for that. Alright guys, that is it for my July wrap-up and August TBR. Let me know down in the comments what your favorite book was for the month of July, and if you're participating in the Booktubeathon, good luck, have fun, it's going to be awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, happy reading. Bye!